And welcome back. In this tutorial I'm going to do a quick overview of how to do functions in Witty. So let's get started. As you can see, I have a dummy application, and basically I just call it functions. And I also have somewhere in here I'm going to show you an error that comes up with Witty that I mentioned can happen in my previous videos on void pointers. So I'll show you how that works as well. So the first thing we want to do is create a function called say hello. And basically a function is nothing but a group of statements that you want to execute all at once. And if you look at this application already, main is a function and create application in Witty is a function. And basically all you've been doing so far is executing a group of statements. When you create a Witty application, all it's doing is creating a group of statements that executes, and then you display the values onto a browser screen. Or that's for any C++ program or any programming language. If it supports functions or subroutines, depending on the language, what you want to call it, you're executing a group of statements. You just create your variables, make some changes, the program makes some changes to it and displays it or processes some kind of data, and that's basically executing a group of statements. So in our example, I'm going to create a function called say hello, and we pass in a pointer to the Witty application object, and the reason I do that is so I can actually run this function and display a value onto the screen. And so being able to do that, with the Witty library, I need access to the Witty application. So you go ahead and just create a prototype. You actually don't even need a name for the variable that gets passed in for the prototype. All you need is the data type, and if it's going to be passed by value or by reference or via a pointer. And then on the bottom of the source file, just do the same thing, say hello, and we're going to create two of these. And then we have the Witty application. Let me slow down a little bit. And what we want to do is access the Witty application object, the root object, and we're going to add a Witty text object, which is nothing but HTML text, to our widget tree. So Witty text and say hello. And that's basically, this is something we've been doing so far in our tutorials. We just access the root object of the Witty application. We added a Witty text widget to the application tree, and it's going to display the value say hello. And then now, even if you look at this again, this is the function. You're setting a value, and it's it's being passed a parameter, and it's displaying a function. And we're going to just do our custom function. Pass in the Witty application object that we created right here. Just passed in this from this. And then now if you save it, I've already run CMake, so I'm just going to compile it. And this is what I wanted to get to. We have an error here. I mentioned this in our previous tutorial that even though you can access the Witty container widget from the application root object, if you do not add that, and I'll show you the error. If you don't add that to the application, it will not compile. I just wanted to throw that in there in case somebody gets an error for, how come this didn't compile? I have all the classes I need. You need this. This is essential for all your Witty applications. And if we look at the error, actually that's not even the correct error. Let's see. No, I'll take that back. I didn't add that. I guess that would be a valid error as well if you don't add the with the application object. But let's try it again. It should give you the error I was talking about. Okay, there we go. It's going to prompt me. Okay, invalid use of incomplete type class witty container widget. So, like I said, if you don't add that class, even though you can get access to the witty application object, that header has to be added. So if we go ahead and add this, widget, and then let's compile it. Okay, as you can see that the executable has been moved. We run the witty server. It's not going to prompt us because I did this program earlier. And then, let's see. Let's get all the Stack Overflow. And if you just do a refresh, it should do the same thing. And then there's our say hello. So, all we did was display our, call our function and display the value on the screen. And then I'm going to do a second function real quick. And here's the thing about functions. You can do the same function twice. It's called overloading the function. So you just overload your, you can have the same function name, but either the return type has to be different or your parameter, you have to have a different number of parameters. And even, if you have the same number of parameters, you have to make sure that the parameters are different. And as you can see, same thing. In this case, I added a parameter of integer, by reference, and it's a constant. We don't want to change the value, even though it's being added by reference. We void say hello, because all that integer is doing is we're going to pass in how many times we want to display that value onto the screen. We're going to call it number of times. I don't need the semicolon. And then I'm going to create a for loop. Number of times. Again, that value is not being changed. And basically all we're going to do, another thing a function can do, is call another function. So instead of us writing the code out to actually display this value, we're just going to call that function, pass in our parameter, and then we're going to add an additional statement. We're going to add another widget to the widget tree after we display the value of a witty break, which is nothing but an HTML break tag. So every time we display that value, it's going to print out a break statement. And just to make sure we don't get another error, we need to add that class, add that header. Okay, and there you go. And this time, instead of doing it that way, let's display it 5 times. So there's your witty application object, and there's your integer. And let's compile it. You gotta make sure I turn the server off, close the server. Okay, and let's run it. The witty server is up and running. I'll show you this just in case. There it is. Closed it a minute ago. Okay, and let's do a refresh. And as you can see, all it did was display say hello 5 times. According to that for loop, And that's just a quick primer. There's a whole lot more to functions than what I showed here, but I just wanted to show you that you can go ahead, you can create your own custom functions in Witty using the Witty framework. And this is a great way to learn C++ using this framework. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.